Melissa here from Embodied Pilates, and today we are going to do a session that is going to help with our shoulder placement as well as our rib placement. It's fairly restorative, but impactful. So what we're going to need is a soft foam roller. Those will be for the movements towards the end. We are also going to need a little pillow for our head and a sit fit for under the pelvis. So we'll get started lying on our backs, knees bent, feet flat, in that hook lying position. I do prefer a little pillow under my head to support where my head is naturally placed in that sort of forward head posture, which I'm working on. So in this position, we'll start with a few deep breaths and noticing our thorax, or even more specifically, our back base ribs. So the ribs at the back and towards the bottom. So back base ribs will be our focus today. And you're noticing the quality of those back base ribs as you breathe. So how deep are those ribs, as in how full are they? How much contact do they make against the mat? And also, how much length do those ribs take against the mat? And thirdly, how much width do they take up on the mat? And just noticing, again, that three-dimensional expanse of back base ribs. How voluminous are they? Depth, width, length. With your next exhale, you're going to invite those back base ribs to sink towards the mat. So with every little soft exhale, you ask those back base ribs to sink a little bit closer to the mat. Then we'll pick up our sit fit and place it under the back of the pelvis. So those back base ribs are definitely free. They aren't being touched by the balance cushion. The sacrum, back of pelvis, is well supported by the cushion, but the balance cushion isn't really interfering with the low back space. Now that the pelvis is elevated, try those exhales a second time, with every exhale allowing the back base ribs to drift towards the floor. You can inhale through the nose and gentle exhale through the mouth. So a nice steady inhale through the nose and a exhale through the mouth. Letting those back base ribs soften closer to the mat with every exhale. We're going to start to add a pelvic tilt, landmarking those hip points and starting to rock those hip points towards the ribs and rock the hip points away from the ribs. Exhale as the hip points come towards the ribs. Inhale as the hip points move away from the ribs. Allowing that pelvis to gently rock backwards, hips to ribs. Rock forwards, hips away from ribs. As the pelvis rocks backwards, hips moving towards the ribs, use an exhale. You'll feel that every time those hips rock towards the ribs, that low thoracic spine gets even closer to the mat with that posterior pelvic tilt. So adding that that soft exhale to that posterior pelvic tilt, allowing those back base ribs to effortlessly sink towards the floor. So it's more allowing gravity to drop the back base ribs to the mat than it is any forcing or tensing to get the ribs moving in that towards the back of the body direction. On your next posterior tilt, you're going to hold. So a gentle little hold with the back base ribs towards the floor. And from here, we add a little rotation of the pelvis, tying imaginary strings to our hip points, and we allow one hip point to float towards the sky, and then the other hip point to float towards the sky. You're doing your best to stay easy through the bum, through the core, through the neck, shoulders, and just trying to gently rotate that pelvis side to side. Still thinking about how the posterior pelvic tilt is allowing the back base ribs to gently weight towards the floor. So if those back base ribs had a quality, maybe it's that of a helium balloon losing air. And that helium balloon isn't being forced to the floor, it's just naturally sinking towards the floor. Same as your back base ribs. One more rotation each side and side. We'll lift that pelvis up and we'll set that pelvis down. And from here, noticing if there's been a positive change to the contact of those back base ribs in depth, in length, and in width. So hopefully you're feeling those ribs have spontaneously shifted towards the back of the body. All right, next up, a little bit of self-mobilizing with our foam roller. So a soft density foam roller would be preferred. And we're going to lie on our side and place that foam roller under an armpit. Armpit maybe a little bit lower than armpit. And right from the initial position, you might feel, oh, this is somewhat intense. And we're just going to try to invite that tissue under the armpit to get a little more pliable, a little more play in that tissue. So we start rotating our trunk towards the floor and then rotating our trunk away from the floor. You're going at a pace that feels like very tolerable in terms of the sensation. And you can counterbalance the pressure of trunk on roller by using the top arm a little bit. You want to get a sense that the body can melt into this foam roller, so you're not bracing away from it or tensing up in it. And you're rotating in such a way that you can get into the fibers at the front of the chest a little bit. If you find a hot spot or a spot where you're getting a particularly loud sensation, you can pause there and breathe. tissue to melt. And you don't want to force that tissue in any way. You're just inviting it to be a little more pliable, a little more flexible. You can also shift your body up a little bit, which will shift the roller down towards the feet a little bit. And you can play in an area of the ribs that's perhaps a little bit lower than your original spot. And you're just slowly exploring. So as you're doing this, the back base ribs are still nice and full. There's still a lot of volume back there, a lot of depth back there, and you're just exploring with ease that underarm tension. All right, time to switch sides. So we press up. Come on over to side number 2. Start a little bit higher, a little bit closer to that armpit, resting head in bottom hand. Just give yourself a minute to kind of get acquainted with that pressure. So you don't want to be bracing when you start moving. So just sense that you can soften into the soft foam roller. You can put your top hand down to counterbalance some of your body weight, and then go into those rolls, those rotations. You're working on nice, easeful breathing, a good depth of volume in the back base ribs. And if you find a point of interest, you're welcome to hang out there. So keeping the face soft, keeping the neck and shoulders soft as you do this is helpful and important, so that you're not grinding, right? You're not going hard. Let's move that roller down by shifting the body up. Again, before you start moving, give yourself a moment to acclimate to that pressure. It can feel really different. And then starting to rotate that trunk. Pausing where you find a hot spot. And just breathe. Staying full in the back base ribs. And we will come out of that self-massage for under shoulder. All right, we're gonna set up the foam roller lengthwise and come to lie on that roller, tail to head. So I'm a bit long in the torso. I'm gonna scooch all the way to the end of my roller, and then have a little lie down. If it feels like the neck is in quite a bit of extension, it really feels like the chin is coming up towards the ceiling, you can keep your pillows nearby. You could elevate that head on the pillows, even while you're on the foam roller. From here, we'll reach those arms up, and then we'll start to allow those arm bones to go overhead just a little bit, just half range, through vertical, and then towards the feet a little bit. So just letting those arm bones do a very small arm arc. And letting the sacrum settle onto that foam roller, letting the mid back settle onto that foam roller. And then we're going to pause, reaching one arm up. Take the opposite hand and wrap it around to the back side of your shoulder. And I just want you to tap the back side of that shoulder. So it can be quite audible, but you're really tapping posterior shoulder compartment. Other side, tapping the back of that shoulder. And then we'll reach both arms up, and I want you to get a sense of sinking the arm bones towards the back of that shoulder. So allow the arm bones to be encouraged into that back of shoulder socket with gravity. And then the arms are going to arc over the head, only part range, and towards the feet. Allowing those arm bones to arc over the head, part range, and towards the feet. We're going to pause with those arm bones vertical, tips of arm bones sinking towards the floor. And you're going to open both arms wide and then back up vertical. So as you open wide, can you think about the chest getting longer, stretchier, more pliable? So opening those arms to T. They don't have to go past your side seam, past the foam roller, but we can add a little pause the next time we open. Adding a little pause there. Get wide, wide, wide from breastbone to armpit. And then keep some of that width as the arms come back vertical. So as we open, we think we're going to get longer through the chest, from the breastbone to the right armpit, from the breastbone to the left armpit. And then we keep some of that length to bring the arms back to the sky. One more. Wide, wide, wide from breastbone to armpit, left and right. And then we'll come up and we're going to turn through our upper arm bones. Turn those upper arm bones in a little and turn them out a little. Turn them in a little, the palms will face the wall at your feet. Turn them out a little, the palms will face the wall at your head. So try as best you can to make that movement come from the upper arm bone, the bone between elbow and shoulder. You're going to notice your hands and lower arm bones are probably going to want to do a lot. You're going to try to keep it upper arm bone. You're going to turn the upper arm bone out, palms facing the wall overhead, and T. Thumbs are leading the way. And reverse. So we've spiraled the arm bones into external rotation and we're opening into a T and then reversing. You can continue thinking about that viability from breastbone to armpit, left and right. And every time you open, you want that chest to take up a little bit more space, to stretch a little bit wider. And then we'll take those arms, palms can face each other, and we'll arc them over the head and sweep them down and around. Arc those arms overhead. You can do that on a nice inhale and sweep. 2 more just like that. Inhale overhead, open, circle down to hips. Last time. Alright, we can lie to one side. That'll allow us to come off that full roller. Roll it out from under us. Lay on our backs and just take a few moments and notice if you feel as though the whole back is broader, like there's more contact all the way widthwise from the last rib all the way up to the tops of the shoulders. Hopefully it has this feeling of you've created a lot of space, a lot of width, and a lot of meaningful contact with the floor post that series. So, thank you for joining me today, and I hope you'll join me again for more helpful restorative movement videos.